All right, good morning, guys. Hey, good morning. Welcome to Whites Ferry Road. It is 9 o'clock, and so as we had discussed last week, we're hitting a hard 9 o'clock start on this class. Welcome back to our class on Joshua. My name is Tommy Perkins, and Billy Loveland is somewhere around here. I have seen him wait a minute. What do you have?
It's a rock. Can't you tell?
It is a rock, yeah.
Big rock.
All right.
Heavy. Oh, my back.
Here, just set it down right here.
Okay. 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 You told me I need to bring a rock.
Well, yeah, but I guess I wasn't real clear.
Well, my rock's a lot bigger than yours.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, we've got a surprise this morning already. We have a very large rock.
Yes.
All right. And just want to say thank you to all you guys who are joining us. I want to say thank you to all of you guys out there watching us online. So glad that you guys could come here. We can wait just a minute and let the Blankenship family get in here. Good morning. No, it doesn't matter. Y'all just come right on in.
I'm going to have this book memorized before this is all over with. I don't know how many times I read through chapters 1 through 5.
Look, and it's great. And so last week we did a little bit of background stuff, and we talked about the life of Moses and the handing down of authority through the Jewish people. We talked about the leaving of Egypt, and we talked about the 40 years of wandering in the desert.
And then they chose someone to succeed Moses.
That's right. Well, God chose someone to succeed
and
Moses.
his name wasn't Joshua.
That is correct.
So what was his name?
You've got to forgive me. My Yiddish pronunciations are not really just right up there on par these days. But his name was Hoshea.
Hoshea.
Okay.
Hoshea. And what did that mean in Hebrew?
Hoshea meant the liberator or salvation.
Salvation, okay.
And so Moses took Hoshea and he changed his name. He put the Yah, the Y-A-H in front of it, which that denotes it is of the Lord. Okay. So from there he became Yahoshua.
Yahoshua.
And Yahoshua meant the Lord's liberator or the Lord's salvation.
Okay.
Now, if you translate that into English, surprise, surprise, you get
Jesus.
Close.
What?
Joshua.
Joshua, okay.
You get Joshua.
Oh, my bad. I jumped ahead.
But no, it's quite.
Sorry.
Billy is right on what we're going for, because when you translate it into Greek, you get
Jesus.
Jesus. That's exactly right.
That's
so
right.
The name of Joshua, when it's translated from the Hebrew into the Greek, which is what our Bible was originally written in, both of them refer to Jesus.
Which is amazing because that means salvation.
That means salvation. He is the liberator, the perfecter of our faith. And so, as we promised last week, your class on Joshua, we'll get to the book of Joshua today. So we're just going to dive right in.
Chapter 1.
Let's catch up. Here we go. So we're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about remembrance. We're going to talk about actually entering the land of Canaan.
Right.
Right.
And you want me to read that?
Yeah. Go ahead with 1:1.
Okay. Let me get there. Joshua. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses, my servant, is dead. Kind of like the beginning of the Scrooge.
Oh, yeah. Jacob Marley was dead.
Was dead, yeah. Moses is dead. My servant is dead. Now then you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River.
That's right. So this is the time that Joshua has been raised up for, right?
That's right.
Joshua has been set aside. He was set aside in the desert during the battles with the Amalekites and things like that. God told Moses to give this man some authority, raise him up as your new leader. As we got here and we approached the Jordan River and we get ready to start taking care of, Moses took a step back and said, okay, this is your guy, this is your leader. Mm-hmm. Joshua's going to be the one to take you into this place, and then Moses died. Right? So now God is speaking with Joshua. When we talk about Joshua, when we talk about Canaan, this is actually the area that we're looking at. So the Israelites are camped right up here on the western side of the Jordan River. Jericho is right about here, about 10 miles north of the northern border of the Dead Sea. And so we're looking at a very substantial piece of land here. This is a large area. And so we got to keep in mind that when they conquer and they take over this area, it's not going to happen all at once, right? The rivers dry up, they walk through, and it's not all of a sudden theirs. There are going to be years and years of battle and conquest to go in. But we'll add to that. even after the Israelites take hold of the land, there will be years and years of battle and conquest to keep this land.
Right.
All the way up to now.
And of course, they're used to that. They've had 40 years of moving around in the wilderness, getting
right.
ready for this time and place.
That's exactly right. But one point I would like to make is once the Israelites take over the land of Canaan, that is theirs and they will remain there forever and ever.
Yeah, that was a promise God made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he told Joshua, I will give you every piece of land that you set your foot on.
That's right. As a matter of fact, it starts out in verse 3. It says, I will give you every piece of land where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you.
Well, then he brings up something that's pretty important. It was so important that he said it 3 times. Be strong and courageous. Now, in kids' worship, we have a song. Be strong and courageous.
Do not
we should have brought it up here. Yeah, it's a pretty good song. Yep. Yeah. The kids probably know it. Do you know that one? Yeah, there we go. There we go. But it's very important because he said, be strong and courageous because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night. It's not real easy, but so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Right, a couple of things to mention here. Anytime you're reading the Bible, no matter where in the Bible you are, Old Testament, New Testament, anything, there are very important clues to kind of key you in on when something is really, really, really needs to be paid attention to. One, if God is speaking, there's something to listen to.
Right.
Right? You might need to key on this. This might be important. The Lord has taken the time to say this himself. The other thing is when something gets repeated, then usually that signifies an importance to that particular thing. So here in 4 verses, we have not only God speaking, but him repeating the same thing 3 different times.
Right.
It may seem a little heavy-handed, but as we've seen from these people in the past, they can be a little hard-headed. Right? So God's really hammering that fact in. Right. It's like, look, because why? What does God have? We discussed this last week. God has a plan. God has a plan. And he says, you're going to be part of this plan. And if you want to fit in this plan, all you got to do is be strong and be courageous. And let me take care of everything else.
Yeah, and right after this section, Joshua goes to his leaders and gives this information about, okay, we're getting ready to get up. We're going to cross over the Jordan. We're going in. Then all the people answer Joshua. And I thought this was kind of interesting here. And this is from Joshua 1:16 through 18. Then they answered Joshua, whatever you have commanded us, we will do.
We'll do it.
And wherever you send us, we will go.
We'll go.
Just as we fully obeyed Moses,
well,
so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with us as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command him will be put to death. And then they repeat what God spoke to Joshua. Only be strong and courageous. So they got that part, I guess.
They got it. You know, you remember when you were a kid and you go to church camp in the summer, man, you come back home, you're just all fired up and you're ready to go. Or maybe you've hit a men's retreat or a women's retreat or something and you're really feeling that fire and that spirit. That's what I kind of think the Israelites are going on.
Oh, yeah, they're fired up.
Man, they're hyped up.
Yeah,
you know, we got a new guy. We got a new leader. We're changing some things. We're here. We're not going to be wandering anymore. Let's get after it. We're not going to fail you again. You know, we'll do everything you say.
And you know, that one point last week we talked about after they crossed the Red Sea and got the 10 Commandments, they were right there at the Promised Land.
Yeah.
And then when the spies went in, they were like, oh, no, we can't do this, no. they're giants. You know, and then they had to go wander for 40 years. So now they're back here again.
That's right.
And now they're like, let's do it.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to act right. We're going to do what we're asked to do. That's right. Now, in the wandering and the fighting and all that kind of stuff, Moses had made a deal with 3 of the tribes that were there. So we had the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh had said, yes, we know that God has given us this land in Canaan, but we like this land over here a little bit better. So now remember, Moses was given his authority by God. So the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh were farmers and shepherds. They had lots of livestock. And so they liked the area east of the Jordan River, which was not exactly where God said the promised land was. But they made a deal with Moses, and they said, hey.
Because they had defeated some people that lived there. The Ammonites.
Correct.
Ammonites and these 2 kings. And so it was wide open. So they liked it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So they said, no, we would like this land for our livestock. And Moses said, you know what? Okay, we can do that. You guys, for the Reubenites, the Gibeonites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, can stay here on the east side of the Jordan River so long as, when it comes time for the Israelites to enter Canaan, your fighting men come and fight. Not only do they fight, but they enter the land first.
Yeah, and that was from
the Israelite army.
They made that agreement back in Numbers 32 with Moses.
That's right, that's right. And remember that Moses' authority had been handed down to Joshua, so he had the authority to yes or no this deal. And he said, yeah, he said, that's fine. If you guys are ready, then, you know, leave your livestock, leave your herds, leave your wives and your children behind, and all your fighting men will cross over with us.
Right.
So everybody said good.
And what I get out of that is they wanted to stay. They're like, we're not crossing over Jordan with the rest of the people. We want to just settle up here. We're good. We're good right here. And sometimes, as a church body, we're good. This is my pew right here. I'm okay. But you know, when it comes down to it, we got to do our part. Right. We've got to serve. Those fighting men out of those 3 tribes or 2.5 tribes, they had to go out and do their part. That's right. To defeat all these people from Canaan. And so Moses said, hey, look, we made this agreement. You're going to come over here and fight. And so they did. And they kept their agreement.
They kept their agreement.
But sometimes I think we're like, okay, we'll let everybody else do what, I mean, when he asked me to do this class, I was like, what? Me? Oh, well, okay. I guess so. I need to. And you know, sometimes we're asked to do things we're not real comfortable with, and we just got to do them.
That's right. Especially in the church, a lot of times we see what we like to call the 80-20 principle.
Yeah.
Where 20% of the people do 80% of the work, and you realize that it always kind of falls on certain people. And this is a great reminder to maybe even break out of our own comfort zone a little bit. You don't have to jump up and preach a sermon.
That's right.
You don't have to jump up and teach a class.
That's
but there
right.
are so many ways that you can plug yourself in. Even you guys out there on live stream, and there are ways that you can plug in and join and help out the body of believers in your area or out across the internet.
It's amazing how the smallest things sometimes have the biggest impact, you know. And I see this on Friday nights at CR, and I know I'm going to talk about CR a lot, but I'll get in there and I see these guys come in and all they do is set up chairs. But I'm telling you, they set up chairs meticulously. They've got a line, a string, and they put them out there straight, and they're out there, and no, this one's got to be right here. And I'm just like amazed. Yeah. Because they do it, they're serving with their hearts. They're trying to do it right. And so I'm really impressed with that kind of thing. So sometimes we're like, it's like you said, we don't have to be Alan or Mike or Tommy, you know, but, well, whatever. But sometimes just the small things. Who is it? Robert Dixon?
Yeah.
Sends out birthday cards to everybody. I'm sure y'all all got them. I get one from Robert every year.
Yep.
Small thing. That's right. Makes a big impact.
Huge. And it feeds back into your own life for that too. Well, fantastic. Okay, we're ready, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. So Joshua says, all right.
Well, we got the next step. Before we cross over, we got to do a little investigation.
So Joshua,
espionage.
Yes, espionage. Good word.
Yeah.
Good $4 word. There.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
That was your word.
Joshua, being a military tactician and a warrior and a leader himself, knows the best way to check something out is to send spies. Remember,
he himself was a spy.
That's right.
That's
right. And so, but with this spy mission, it's going to be a little bit different than it was when they sent the 12 spies originally into Canaan 40 years ago.
Right.
All right, so they go ahead and they said, all right, we're going to go in, we're going to send these spies in secret. So look, you got 3 days. I want you to go check out all the land that you can, and especially the city of Jericho.
And find out about the fortifications. Where do they have their guards? What does their army look like? You know, what are we up against?
That's right, exactly right. Now, we don't have the names of these spies in the Bible, but Jewish tradition lists them as Caleb, yes, that Caleb, and the high priest Eleazar. Eleazar was actually the second son of Moses himself. Okay. And so these are pretty trustworthy guys. These are guys who would have been close to Joshua.
And that's tradition.
That's tradition.
We don't see that in the Bible.
Like I said, we don't see that in our Bible. That is straight Jewish tradition. But these are guys that Joshua would have trusted. Okay. And like you said, let's go in there and let's find out this information. Let's see exactly what we're going to have to do. They're being strong. They're being courageous. So they sent.
So let me read verse 1.
Okay, go ahead.
Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho, because that's the stronghold. You know, that's guarding the whole land of Canaan. So they went, and they entered the house of a prostitute.
Yes. Now, look, there's been speculation on why they chose this route for so many times. I like to believe in the anonymity of the prostitute's house.
Okay. It could mean a lot of things, and we don't necessarily have answers for all those questions.
You know, you come up and you go, I saw some Israeli spies. Somebody says, where? And you're like,
Yeah. And they weren't, obviously they weren't very secretive, because word got to the king of Jericho that there were spies around. So
that's right.
Somebody knew there was somebody there that didn't belong.
Right. So the king found out that there were spies there, and he had definitely sent people to look into it. But we want to talk a little bit about Rahab. Now, Rahab is one of these defining characters in the Bible. Right. For many, many different reasons, and we've all got takes on this, but this is where the guys ended up. And there's something very, very important to note here. I'm going to read from Joshua 2. We're going to 10 and 11. Rahab says, we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did at Shihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is the God in heaven above and on the earth below. So Rahab said, we're scared to death. Yep. And let's go back to remember our big round number of 802,617. We discussed about it. These people have been walking around for 40 years. Mm-hmm. They've been noticed.
The word has gotten out.
Yeah. So the people of Jericho know. As a matter of fact, they're not very far from where they are right across the river right over there. It didn't just poof and appear on them. They've seen this army. They've seen what it's done to the other groups in the region. They have tracked it for 40 years, and they are scared.
They're terrified.
And so that brings up a big point, because that's going to be the saving grace for our spies when they get back, right? Sorry, I got to move on to my next page. Now, Rahab, as well as the other Canaanites that lived in this particular area, were pagans. You know, they were not. She said, "We know now that the Lord your God is the God of heaven above and the earth below." But they were worshipers of Baal and Asherah, the gods of Canaan. And one of the things about the gods of Canaan is they were fertility gods. There was a lot of sexual practice. There was a lot of temple prostitution. There was a lot of things like that wrapped up in these worshiping practices. There was also sacrifice, even down to child sacrifice. So you remember when we started the wandering back 40 years ago, God said, I'm not giving you this land now because it hasn't reached its full, what's the word I'm looking for? Debauchery. We'll just go there. Yeah. Said it hadn't gotten there. So by now, this time has gotten there. So they want to go in and say, okay, God is the one leading this battle. That's something we'll have to remember. That's something Joshua has to be reminded of and remember the whole time, that this is God's battle against the Canaanite people. This is not Joshua and the Israelites going and taking someone's land. Right. Joshua and the Israelites are the tool which God is using to cleanse this land and give it to the people that he promised. Right. So Rahab knows of this. She knows that they are in fear. She's aware of what the Israeli gods will do, and she decides to turn. Right. She's like, I'm going to help these spies. I'm going to like this. And I love this because this points out that all the way back at the beginning, most of this book is a story about one group of people, but all the way back at the beginning, the kingdom of God was open to anyone.
That's right.
Anyone who would turn to serve him, right?
Right. Well, let me just read on. She said, after she hid the spies, she said, now then please, swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and you will save us from death. And, you know, it's pretty amazing that God would choose her in this plan, because there's some references to her in the New Testament. Of course, she is in the lineage of David. She was actually Boaz's mother.
Correct.
Who was David's great-great-grandfather, maybe? I can't remember. He's in the line. Who is in the line of Jesus? Rahab, the prostitute. So God can use anybody. And she's even in Hebrews.
Well, I was going to say also that, talk about the Lord using anybody. Talk a little bit about Friday nights.
Okay. Thank you for asking. We have a ministry here at Whites Ferry, Celebrate Recovery. It's been going, Keith, 18 years here, something like that? Yes. Pushing 20 years. And I have seen and heard the testimonies of some of those people that have come through Celebrate Recovery. And it's just amazing what God has done to these people. And what we need to remember is sometimes one act of obedience can change the legacy of your family. It did for Rahab.
That's right. I mean, not only the legacy of her family, but the legacy of the whole world.
That's right.
Because God said, yes, I will accept into the fold of my covenant people this pagan Canaanite prostitute.
Right.
And not only will I accept her into the fold, but she will raise up the greatest king that this nation has ever seen.
Right.
And from her lineage, the very Messiah will come. And I will exalt her in the hall of faith for all the greatest Israelite leaders. You know what that sounds like to me, Billy?
What's that sound?
That sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
God has a plan. God has a plan for every life on this planet, especially yours. You are in this plan. And he took Rahab, somebody that these people would not have even bothered to look at twice when they walked by on the street, and said, I will save the entire world through her.
Yeah, and in Hebrews 11:31, by faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. She's listed with all these great heroes from the Old Testament. She's one of the great heroes. And it's just because she had a small act of obedience.
You know,
Mr. Robert?
It's still referred to her as a prostitute. It didn't say that she repented and moved on with her life out of that profession.
Yeah, we don't know.
I think we want to think that happened, and hopefully it did. But she's still referred to as that.
You know, that's very interesting. I never really looked at it that way. What Mr. Abel said was he said that ironically she is still listed even in the Hall of Faith as the prostitute. So, we like to think that she had changed her ways and came into the fold of God, but we won't really know for certain.
And also, ironically, I just asked Mac Owen this morning when Celebrate Recovery started, December 31st, 2004.
Oh, all right.
Is that here? Here? Okay,
December 31st,
years.
2004 was when the Celebrate Recovery program here at Whites Ferry Road started.
Hey, I was
Thank
pretty
you,
close.
Mr. Robert.
How about
You're pretty
that?
close.
Yeah.
Pretty
but
close.
you think about it, and the people that come through Celebrate Recovery, I mean, we all have problems. If you look around and say, well, man, he's got it together. No, nobody has it together. I don't care how together somebody looks. They've got something, okay? It may not be big. It may not be the same thing you have. And I'm sure the people that Celebrate Recovery aren't worshiping Baal or Asherah. But they have their own gods to deal with. Their own idols, their own issues, and God can use them. He can use you. So that's something you need to take from this story of Rahab.
That's right. I agree with that 100%. Okay, Billy, it's been a long time leading up to it.
Yep.
Oh. Mr. Dennis?
Oh, I was just looking back here. I had never thought about this. But she says, I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I've shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house. Give me a true token and spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sister, and all they have, and deliver our lives from death. Can you imagine on the day that the walls of Jericho fell, all these people are being saved while everybody's dying around us?
You know, I've thought about that, Dennis, and I've thought about, okay, all the walls fall down. Is there one little section here that just stayed up? I mean, you know, you think about that. I mean, because the walls, they lived on the walls.
And they lived in the walls.
And they lived in the walls, and so I'm guessing this one section just stayed up there. I mean, I don't know.
That speaks to the point of what you're saying about the influence.
Yeah.
Here's one person's influence is spread throughout her family, and they don't even have an idea why they're being.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
So what Mr. Dennis said there was that the Rahab used her influence to spare not only her own life during this battle, but to reach out and take the entire life of her family. And so that's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful step forward.
And obviously, you know, earlier I read, if you obey these commands, you'll be prosperous, you know, and all that. And I'm not saying, I don't want to preach prosperity religion here or anything, but her son Boaz was a wealthy guy.
Yeah.
He got some wealth from somewhere. I don't know, you know, I don't know, maybe her business was pretty good back then. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go there. Let's consecrate ourselves. How about that? Okay?
Let's consecrate ourselves.
Okay. Let's do
So
that.
we finally gotten there.
I'm repenting right
We've
now.
been wandering in the desert for 40 years. We have changed over our leadership from Moses to Joshua, and now we are ready. We are ready to cross the Jordan River. That was
But they
the
weren't
boundary
totally
marker.
ready.
They weren't totally
I think they were ready for battle.
They were ready for battle. And they were ready to quit wandering in the desert and
Yeah.
the wilderness. I bet they
Yeah.
were. So Joshua says we're going to take this time. Jump ahead. You have 3 here. I got 3:5 right here.
Yep, go ahead.
So Joshua says, Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things for you. Now this consecration was a daily part of ritualistic Israeli society, or excuse me, or Israelite society. It still is today. So we know that consecration means to set ourselves apart to be wholly usable for God. In other words, we have no unconfessed sin in our life, but we need, and to be a clean vessel for him to use. But the meaning of this command goes even deeper. It also means to compose our minds and hearts to hear from God and obey. This is what it means when we recognize that we live for him. So what it is, he said, okay, everybody, we're about to get ready to fight. We're going to be strong and we're going to be courageous, but first thing, we're going to be clean and ready. If there's something you need to get off your chest, get it off your chest. If there's something you need to repent for, let's repent for that. Let's clean ourselves. Let's go through. We're going in clean slate to be used as a tool by
and we're
God.
fighting a battle every day.
Yes.
We fight a spiritual battle every day. Same thing for us. We need to be ready. And if we're holding on to something that we don't need to be holding on to, it's going to hold us back in this battle.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
And so as they did this, God comes about and says, and the Lord said to Joshua, we're in 3:7 now. And the Lord said to Joshua that I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of Israel so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. And he says, so look, I'm going to lift you up. Now imagine, Billy and I have talked a good bit about this. About, well, I mean, they've been there the whole time. But remember, we're dealing with a large population. If there's 800,000 people here, not everybody has seen Joshua on a day-to-day basis. Right? He's a busy guy. He's got things to do. And so the Lord said, well, I will begin to exalt you in front of these people the same way that I did Moses. And the way they did that was by miracles. With this, Joshua's authority was complete. All right, here's a long one. You want to read or you want me to read?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
Are we on Joshua 3:9? Man, I can't read your font here, man. Come on, I gotta get the old man blind. Okay, we're going 3:9 through 17.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, my phone, I can blow it up a little bit. Helps. All right. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites.
Goodites.
Whew. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap.
In a heap.
So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carry the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap at a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground.
All right.
While all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground.
Dry ground. There's a lot to unpack here, but we'll start at the back and we'll say from dry ground. I assume most of you live here in Louisiana, and you know if there was water once standing there and the water decides to leave, it leaves behind a mess.
Yeah, have you ever been duck hunting?
No, I'm not.
I'm not much of a duck hunter, okay? But I have gone a few times. And the worst is when you go hunt a rice field without a dog, okay? Because then you have to get in. When you kill a duck, guess who's going in to get that duck? You are. I'm telling you, if you've dragged out deer before, there's nothing dragging a deer out like walking through the muck in Waders. Is that right? Oh my goodness. You talk about a heart attack waiting to happen. So they walked on.
Right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off
the
there.
whole thing is we can stop the water, but I think the real miracle here is the drying up of the mud to let everybody come back. So Joshua said, lead these people up the Ark of the Covenant right to the Jordan River. And I'm going to step over here to my handy dandy map. So a lot of this, remember we talk about ancient history, so a lot of this must be archaeological evidence as well as speculation. So we figure we're here on the west side of the Jordan River. Now, what did the scripture say? The waters did what?
Piled up in a heap.
Piled up in a heap near Adam. Up here, this is a 20-mile stretch of water that just quit. Now, I'm no engineer, but Ryan Spillers is. And it would take something pretty amazing to hold back that water up there, wouldn't it? Yes. Especially for 20 miles of floodplain. Like, that's really good.
And the Jordan was a pretty good-sized river in those days.
Yeah, at this time, not only was the Jordan a pretty good-sized river in these days, but it's also at its flood stage. It's harvest time when they decide to cross. So not only is it normally there, the snow melt has been coming down from the mountains, and it's wide. It's really big. So this would have been a miracle on par with the crossing of the Red Sea. This is one of the ways that Joshua would be elevated in the minds of the people, because they look back and they said, oh my goodness.
We heard the story.
We heard the story. We knew that there was a couple of them that were still alive when all that happened. They weren't of fighting age, so they would have been there. And so that they said, all right, well, here it is. You know, we've got a leader now. Right. We've got somebody that can do the miracles that God has ordained them to. Now, I'm sorry.
And he was exalted. Me and Lindy were talking the other day. I'm like, what does that mean? Did he have a glow? Right. I don't know. But everyone was in awe of him as they were in awe of Moses.
That's exactly
Which it makes you kind of wonder what I mean, there was something about him.
Well, God raised these people up himself. He put them into their authoritative positions. He said, be strong and courageous, and that's exactly what we're doing. Now, on a historical side note, if you guys want some interesting and light side reading, in 1927, there was an earthquake just outside of Jericho that caused a landslide near where the ancient city of Adam was that stopped the Jordan River. Like the workers and the engineers and everybody out there from that time had to go back and had to dig it out to get the river flowing again. So if you want to look back at that, that was just a real interesting way that people look back and go, wait a minute.
How could that happen?
Has this happened before? I think I read about that somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're here. We have finally made it. We have wandered in the desert for 40 years, right? We were taken over. We have crossed over the Jordan River. Joshua has taken the place of Moses as the true leader of Israel. And Joshua tells the Israelites to remember what happened and mark this place. How did they mark this place? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No wonder you brought the big rock.
That's why he picked the 12 guys, picked somebody from each tribe, and he said, look, when we cross over, why don't you go down there, and I'm sure he picked some pretty strong guys.
I would imagine it's going to be rocks
and
like
they picked the big rock up, put it on their shoulder, and carried it over and put them up in a big pile. Big pile of 12 rocks. I'm sure they're probably not that big, probably somewhere in between. I don't know. Who knows? They might have been stronger than
Sure.
me. Yeah. Anyway, they piled them up and they're like, well, what does this mean? And it was so they could remember.
So they could remember. Not only they could remember, but they could teach the others.
Right.
That's been one of the big things we've been hitting on in the last 2 weeks is, remember, these people aren't writing things down right now. Right? They're busy going from town to town, wandering through the desert for 40 years. They've got to keep this. This is still a huge oral tradition. So they mark this place. Right? And Joshua tells them, it's like, so when your children ask, what are these rocks? Then you can tell them what happened here. You can tell him that the entire nation of Israel crossed the Jordan River on dry ground, right, at the behest of God. So as we get ready, we start to prepare because they know that there's going to be a battle coming. It's the whole reason we sent the spies in, and they came back.
And so now we're camped out on the Canaan side of the Jordan.
Right. Let's come back a little bit.
What did we decide? 800 and something thousand?
802,618. Is that right?
Don't hold us to that. But.
Somewhere there. So they're camped out right about here in Gilgal. This is where we imagine we set up the stones and everything. So we're still a little ways out of Jericho. But again, the people of Jericho now are even closer. They can see them. They can see them. They're right over there. And so all the kings of Canaan fear the Israelites. But more importantly...
And they heard about how the Jordan dried up.
That's right. More importantly, they fear the Israelite God. Because they had heard all the stories about what happened in Egypt, and they had heard the stories about the battles and things that went on in the wilderness, but they just straight up saw this. They just saw the power of God right in front of them. So Joshua at this time renews the covenant of circumcision. This goes back to our consecration. He's like, okay, we're in the land of Canaan. Right? So they hadn't practiced circumcision. They haven't practiced some of their holy rites and some of their holy traditions and things while they were wandering in the wilderness, just because I guess they fell down lower on the hierarchy of the things that needed to be done. So Joshua goes and he circumcises all of the males and everything like that, gives them time to heal. Yes, it's a good leader there. Yeah. Good leader there. And then says, all right, now we're going to prepare ourselves for battle. This is, we knew it was coming. We knew it was going to come. We even knew where it was going to come. So we've gotten right with God. And this is one of the big things that you and I talked about last night.
And I'm not really sure what this means, and maybe you could shed, maybe some of you guys could shed some light on chapter 5, verse 9. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Can we have some help from some of you guys? Reproach?
Rolling.
What?
Rolling.
Rolling?
Rolling?
Rolling.
Roll away the reproach. Okay.
Yeah. This is all reproach.
Thank you, Miss Donna.
Thank you, Miss Donna. Has been moved. Right? And so I kind of think of it as, Joshua at this point would have been one of the last people left alive
from Egypt
that came out of Egypt.
Right.
Right? And so there might have been some sort of stigma that was placed on that older generation that got them in trouble and got them put out in the wilderness already or something like that. But he said, I'm going to clear in the minds all the people, all the reproach of Egypt.
Yeah, and hopefully they're not longing to go back to Egypt.
Exactly.
Still, because a lot of times one of the themes in Exodus was, if we could have just stayed in Egypt, everything would have been great. No.
Look, and that's a great point because I think that plays right into the thing next. So what it is they decide to celebrate the Passover.
Right.
So they have renewed the covenant of circumcision. They have consecrated and cleansed themselves. These are people coming back to God, right? Many of us may have been at this very point in our own lives. These are people turning around, changing their ways, and coming back to God, coming back to what they knew. Mm-hmm. They celebrated the Passover. They ate food of the land of Canaan. And this is very important because after all this, they have been sustained by the manna in the desert and sustained by God. They come into the land that the Lord has given them. They eat the fruit of the land. And the next day, the manna stops.
Which tells me there's no turning back now.
There's no turning back now. That's right.
The manna stopped. You're here. Move on in.
That's right. That signifies to the people that on the other side of the Jordan, where I sustained you in the wilderness, there's nothing there for you anymore.
That's right.
So now we're going to carry on. From this day forth, Israelites will occupy the land of Canaan.
That's right.
They've been exiled. Every empire known to man has run over this place. They have gone through Babylonians and Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, British. The Third Reich couldn't even kick them out. So all the way up to today, there are still the people of God inhabiting the land that was given to them so long ago. So as we come together next week, how are we on time, guys?
Wait a minute, we got a few more minutes. We got to talk about this last part. This is important.
All right,
we got
knock it out.
5 minutes.
Knock it out. Knock it out. I like it.
We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Joshua's out there getting ready for battle, so he's out there. He's pacing around trying to calculate what they're going to do. How are we gonna scale these walls? We're going to build some what do you call those things? Those fortifications. Those,
sure. Towers.
We're going to put some ladders up there and crawl over. He's trying to figure it all out, and he's walking around. He meets somebody.
He meets a warrior. No, he doesn't meet me.
He meets a warrior.
No, he meets a warrior. And Joshua, being the leader that he is, immediately stands and says, "You there, are you for us or are you for our enemies?" Now, the answer that the warrior gives is one of my absolute favorite lines in all of Scripture. It is simple, it is concise, and it says, "Neither." That's had to be confusing to Joshua. He is the leader of all these people, by the way.
But he adds a little to that.
But he adds a little bit to that.
It says, "Neither. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come."
That's right. If you ever had a check yourself moment in your life, this was Joshua's check yourself moment.
Yeah.
When he says, "Hey, are you on my team or their team?" And he's like, He's like, "You're just a bit player in this story, buddy." Yep. But this is where Joshua really takes his authority, and he says, he took to his knees, he fell right down on his face right there, and he says, "I will do whatever the Lord commands me to do." And I love this, because when the Lord first talked to Moses, so many years ago, what did he tell him? When God, at the burning bush, what's the first thing that God told Moses? Take off your shoes. That's right. That's the very thing that this warrior tells Joshua. He says, "Take off your shoes because you are standing on holy ground." Joshua knows at this point that this is God's battle. This is God's battle against the Canaanites. He will just merely be a tool.
That's right.
Thank goodness he is willing to step into that role. That is leadership.
That's right. And sometimes we need to ask ourselves, whose side are we on? Because a lot of times, especially these days, it's always us against them. Whether it's politics, whether it's religious ideas, it's always us against them. Whose side are you on? Are you on my side or their side? He wasn't on either side. He was on God's side.
That's right. And he knew this because he knew that God had a plan. And now he's found out the way that he fits into that plan. Guys, we love y'all. We thank y'all so much for joining us. Next week when we start up, we're going right at it, man. Next week is going to be the battle for Jericho.
That's right.
We're going to pray you guys out. We hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy your worship. Spread some love and joy to everybody that you see.
And is next week Spring Forward?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Sunday?
it is.
Be ready.
All right. So, hey, we'll really get ready to get here and start it on time. You want to pray us out, or you want me to?
Okay, that's all about. Dear Lord, we would just want to thank you here for this time we've had here together, and we want to thank you for this story of Joshua, and help us to always remember to be strong and courageous in anything that we face, and help us to know that you're there with us, and it's your plan and not ours, and just help us to just always serve in whatever way we can, and just thank you so much for the person of salvation, Jesus. In his name we pray, amen.